Namaskar. We welcome all of you to our well-being series. Today we have Shoumitra Rai with us from Seed Content and Design. In his own words, he says, everyone has a journey that is unique and inspiring both professionally and personally. His professional journey began when he was 19 with McCann in Mumbai. Presently, a very renowned industry professional who was 22 at that time and himself were responsible for winning the Cook account for McCain India with the support of McCain Worldwide, of course. But it was just the two of them pitching against the likes of industry legends, Mohammed Khan and Ashok Kurian. And they won the creative pitch. He then went on to script the first 3 Coke commercials done in India at the tender age of just 19. In the next few years, he became a creative director at 22 with HTA, now Wonderman Thompson. His journey continued with a lot of senior management positions in leading agencies and many major accomplishments in large brands in India and also in Southeast Asia. He also studied filmmaking in New York and saw the World Trade Center collapse live. Now that must have been a life-changing moment for sure. Not a pleasant memory, I gather. But he had a spiritual inclination from an early age, a personal journey that played a crucial part in his thinking, values, and beliefs as he continued to achieve well-appreciated results for the companies he worked for. It was and still a highly complex yet invigorating journey for him. He took several short breaks from work to explore the vast spiritual legacy of India, traveling and living in secluded places in Himalayas seeking depth. One fine day, he decided to leave the corporate world after 22 years and get married to his childhood sweetheart and move to Goa. His spiritual learnings took him the form of 2 books that he penned over 3 years in a small village in Goa. He says that he is always destined to come back to the corporate world, and as fate would have it, one of the India's most reputed appliance companies based in Goa, IFB Industries, after a few memorable interactions with the senior management, he formed a content creation company exclusively for them. He hired a team of youngsters from Goa College of Art and even created a film production ecosystem in a primitive market like Goa. His team and him did unconventional work, and management gave him complete freedom to explore every aspect of the manufacturing business. He traveled extensively and grew in knowledge from being a creative director to someone who could put a washing machine together and run a large business. IFB offered him a position to head one of their product categories, but he stuck to his forte. But now, he says, he used his creativity in unorthodox ways to solve various customer-facing and large organizational issues with video content. It was a unique and original approach, and it resulted in a 4 million customer base built over 35 odd years to grow to 5.7 million customers in just 2 years, an exponential growth in revenue during his collaboration with the team. His relationship with IFB then ended towards the end of 2019 due to some sensitive reasons. He still lives in Goa and works on independent projects. He believes that human intelligence is an inspiring tool, but not a perfected one. Maybe with the emerging technologies in AI, it may become more proficient, but even AI has no control over the overarching nature of the technology and spirit that governs the universe. Like I said, he says, I'm still journeying both professionally and spiritually, and there is no finish line. We are glad that you are here and you have joined us today on our well-being series. We would like you to share your inspiring journey with us. Over to you.
Yeah, so it's been a long journey. It's been many years in the corporate world, 26 years, 26, 27 years. Yes, I'm still 45. Like I said, I started when I was 19. So, held many, like you already said, held many management positions, senior management positions, worked on some of the largest brands in the world, in different markets, in India and Southeast Asia, etc. And but like you also said, there was another part to me, another side to me, which was my spiritual side, and that continued even though I was in the midst of the corporate world. Somehow, through some kind of, we can't explain things. We can't explain many things. Like I said, human intelligence is not a perfected one, though technology will make like what Elon Musk is doing right now. He's putting those 8 neurotransmitters into the brain so that we can interact with the computer and behave like one. These are advances in technology, but I still think there are many things which we have not been able to accomplish, and it may take humanity, even with the advent of technology, it may take an unbelievably long period of time, probably thousands and thousands and thousands of years, to be able to perfect the technology which the universe has provided. You know, my personal journey has been interesting. My professional journey. My professional journey has won me lots of international awards, and I brought McCann Erickson in Indonesia from number 17 in creative ranking to number 2 in 1 year. And there have been many accomplishments on very big brands. You can see that on my LinkedIn profile. So I don't need to talk about that. It's there on LinkedIn, so you can take a look at that profile and see what. But what was interesting was the most recent phenomena, which was IFP Industries. And the work which we did for IFP is something which I have never done before in my life. So I had to basically unlearn everything that I had learned in advertising, because I suddenly realized, after we had done extensive research, me and my teams, of about 28 markets or 25 to 28 markets across India, to understand IFP's culture, to understand their retail environment, to understand issues within the company, right from the issue of a shop floor person, for example, who is in a retail shop like a MBO. You know what MBO is, which is that multi-brand outlet, like Vijay Sales in Bombay, or, where there are multiple machines, multiple brands. So people working on the shop floor, technicians, what are the issues of technicians? What are the issues of branch managers? What are the issues of sales forces? What are the issues of franchises and dealers? So we sort of understood all these issues, and we created something which was very unique, which I had not done before. There were many firsts in IFP. I had never done any of these things before. So we created really well documented video decks, 1 hour video decks, with all the issues which employees had. So they were actually, see, what I believe is, when you put a research document together, which I learned, if you put a research document together on paper, it means one thing. But the moment it's on video, like you and me are talking right now, and a person's face is on the computer of the CEO of the company, a person on the shop floor, and that person's issues come forth, the impact is far, far greater. So what we did was, after we understood the company, we understood the issues of the company, we understood the culture of the company, we started creating not just consumer-facing content, but we also started creating internal content for the company, which solved many large organizational issues. So we started creating internal content for the company, which solved organizational issues, service issues, franchisee issues. And what we did very interestingly, because I'm from a creative background, we did all this in the form of very interesting video content. See, video connects most with people these days. So we may have created over 250 videos for them in about 2 years' time. Some which were live shoots, some were just created out of computer animation and stock footage, but very effective. Because now I'm going to give you a little fact, a little figure. Now I can't take the credit for all of this. We can't take a credit saying that we were responsible for an exponential growth in revenue. But when I joined them, their revenue was 1,000 crores, and so towards the end of 2000, so you can see the revenue figures. They are on my website as well, showmarc.com. So they're on my website as well. The revenue figures are there, which is Fortune 500 figures. So you can take a look at them. But what was interesting is that 2017, towards the end, is when I joined them till the end of 2019. And the revenue increased to 3,250 crores, which means the customer base that was built over 35 years when I joined them was 4 million. And in a 2 year period, or a one, not even a 2 year, less than 2 year period, it went to 5.7 million customers. So there was an exponential growth in revenue. And if you see the work which we have done, which is there on my website, if you see the kind of work which we have done, you will see why it has had an impact on revenue. It is not just me saying it. And I would still say we were instrumental, because revenue increase, there are multiple factors, market factors, production factors, distribution factors. There are many factors which impact revenue. But if you see the kind of work which we did, you will see why we impacted, how we would have impacted revenue. So this was the biggest learning. And like I said, I was always a creative director. So here I got the chance to understand a business inside out. And after understanding a business, how to use creativity to solve business problems within and outside of the organization, which is consumer facing issues as well as internal issues. We made technicians laugh, to make a point, for example. Technicians were not following their SOPs, especially SOP,
Yes.
standard operating procedure. When they go to the house, how should they behave? What should they do? How should they interact with the customer? Because see, the CEO does not interact with the customer. The technician and the call center people interact with customers directly. The people on the shop floor interact with customers directly. So it's very important that interaction affects the brand image. Maximum social media comments which people get, criticisms which companies get, they have ORM systems, reputation management systems to manage all of that. But maximum complaints come in this area, where there is a direct interaction between the customer and the company representative, which could be a technician, which could be a shop floor retail associate, or it could be a call center person. So we corrected these kind of issues. Yeah.
That's wonderful. So you have given a gist of your professional journey. Would you like to share about your personal journey, your spiritual side of the journey you have mentioned in your introduction? Tell me.
See, my spiritual journey has been very curious. I started studying the Bhagavad Gita when I was about 17 years old. And I may have studied it over many, many years and read it maybe 100, 200 times. And I also went away to secluded places, by myself, like I've written, to find depth, understand things. But I think what you talk about well-being, I think the first well-being which we need to start off is the planet. I think Earth's well-being is very important, because if the well-being of this planet is not correctly done, there will be no us.
True.
We will not be there. First well-being has to be planet Earth. That's where well-being begins. And the way industry is, the way countries dictate terms, the way politics is, it's difficult to control that well-being. But I think people are getting more aware. And in your small world, if you can contribute to the well-being of our planet, in a small way, whichever way you do, plant a tree, whatever you do, there are tens and thousands of people telling you how to make the earth a better place today. Millions of groups on social media, millions of people across the world are talking about this. So I think well-being, when you talk about well-being, your show is about well-being. So I think one of the important things is well-being of the planet. I think that's where it all begins. And the well-being of the human being, through all my understanding, spiritual understanding, through all my readings, etc., on various subjects, right from artificial intelligence to consciousness. I spoke on consciousness also in a forum in Goa. Understanding of consciousness. Consciousness to me is what you are conscious of. That's what makes your consciousness. I am conscious of my values, so that is part of my consciousness. I'm conscious of the environment around me, which could be a TV show, which could be a book, it could be politics, it could be commerce, it could be anything. And all that, the knowledge which is within me and the knowledge which is around me, that is what forms my consciousness. That is what forms my consciousness. And that was consciousness. But I understood something very simple in the most recent time during this COVID period. I think during the COVID period, a lot of people went down on their knees and they prayed. I think a lot of people did that. A lot of people actually were humbled by this massive phenomena which took place. And this has happened to this world time and time again, periodically. Whether it was the world wars, before that, whether it was the empires which were the colonials, everything. Time and again, somehow this world has been brought down to its knees, and this happened again. So I think what I've learned is that you may explore consciousness. You may today, there are pundits and gurus who talk about multiple interpretations of Indian texts, ancient Indian texts, and they form their own little, I would say cults or whatever they have formed, and they form their own followings, etc. It's very popular culture, it's become popular culture. But I think what is most important in today's time for well-being of the human being, you can follow all these meditation techniques and all that, but I think simple things like kindness, simple things like caring for somebody else, simple things like humility in whatever you are doing, but still remain humble. I think these are the things, these are the values which I think are far beyond any kind of knowledge you can have. You can have the most vast knowledge about right from the origin of the first computer programmer. You might not know this. Eva Lovelace, English lady, she was the first computer programmer in the world. It was a woman. Huh? She was Lord Byron's daughter. Have you heard of Lord Byron, the poet?
Yes.
Very famous poet. Very, very famous poet. So she was Lord Byron's daughter. She was a socialite, and she was the first computer programmer in the world. It was a woman who was the first computer programmer. And she was the one who actually developed the beginnings of AI by creating a computer program out of a differential machine, which was the first computer. So I think you can have all the knowledge in the world. You can talk about consciousness, you can talk about all that. But I think if humanity doesn't exist, if you don't have a human touch, because we are humans at the end of it, if you don't have that, then all the knowledge in the world, everything, if you're not put into action, it's not very important. So my spiritual journey may have been arduous, like I said, invigorating, very mystical, going into all the mountains, living by myself in caves, all of that. It may be very interesting. But I think I've learned now that these values are far more important. And that is what is locking morality, ethics, human values. These are the things which are spiritual actually, is what I feel now after a 28, 29-year long journey,
Wow.
into understanding complex things, very, very complex things. Speaking about them, Public Forum, International Center of Goa, it's a very large, place where speakers speak. I spoke on consciousness over there. But now I realized, आपको जितना भी knowledge होगा, आप knowledge gain करो. Knowledge is very important. Knowledge helps you grow. Knowledge helps humanity grow. Very, very important part. But these values should not leave, is what I feel, is what I've learned now after many years.
Thank you for being so candid about your spiritual journey, your corporate journey, and also what do you feel about what is the most important thing that one has to follow in a person's life. So would you like to share a message to everybody who is viewing your video out there?
I think I'm from the corporate world, and the corporate world is a very stressful place. There is no denying that. You have targets to achieve, you've got a business to grow. Every individual within the corporate world has a very tough time, especially in cities like Bombay and the metros, where it's not just the office, it's also the roads, the traffic, all of that, it is very stressful for people. And I think what happens when there is a lot of stress is that your personal balance gets disturbed. When there's stress all the time, your personal balance gets disturbed. I recently spoke to some very senior people. I won't name the company, but in a very large company, the chairman of the company and various serious, it's a very large company, one of the largest companies in India. And I was doing some work for them, so we got a chance to speak. The one thing which I learned from them, though no matter now they're billions, the company is worth billions, the humility of the people within the company really touched my heart. I think if companies today can, though, and everybody knows their stress, everyone knows there are targets to achieve, everyone knows that. But if somehow the humanity stays and the companies actually understand the stress levels are high, which everyone understands, people are doing various things around the world. They are getting outside people to come in, they're getting, mystics to come in, they're getting these gurus to come in to help, and all that is going on. But I think as an individual within a company, if you can maintain to your fellow colleagues, person sitting next to you on your desk within your office, if you can be friendly, if you can be kind, if you can be nice to them, no matter how much stress is personal. Stress is what you experience personally. But I mean, you must be under stress by listening to me, for example. So stress we all have to deal with. We can't help it. But I think in your actions, if small gestures, if you can, be nice to people, be kind to people, be good to people, I think that uh, is already combining something which is very professional and inculcating spirituality into it, is what I think.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for joining us today. Namaskar. We
Namaskar.
wish you all the very best in what you're doing professionally and personally. And we hope you carry this beautiful message of being a human first to everybody out there with the wonderful person and nature of yourself. Namaskar.
Namaskar.